Whoa. What's the intro, Glenn? Glenn, you're panicking. It's on. Wow, what an intro!
Didn't quite work out.
I think sometimes you can make your mark by having the worst intro ever.
We're going to swap sides, Glenn. Your name's on that side.
Oh, my name's on. Oh, look how I got taller by swapping sides.
You did well.
Well, tonight we're talking about using the family home to make some extra money. Money's tight, interest rates are high, cost of living's high, inflation's high. So one of the ways you can use your Torrance-style home to make some money, obviously you could rent out a room, you could take on students, there's companies out there, but a lot of people, instead of buying investment property, are investing in granny flat, or what do we call them
granny
today?
Flats, the more, I guess the proper name is secondary dwelling.
Secondary dwelling.
In the world of council.
Yes. And Stev, let's talk all things granny flat. So I've got a townhouse that's strated, huge backyard. Can I get a granny flat?
Strated, no, you can't.
Bum, bum.
No.
Okay. I've got 450 square meters of land. I've got an existing dwelling on there. Can I build a granny flat?
You can. The minimum lot size required in New South Wales is 450 square metres. You've got to work within certain setbacks, but at 450 square metres plus, you can fit a granny flat on that block of land.
And to give you an idea, on the Northern Beaches, most of our blocks are over 450 square metres.
Yeah, that's right.
Except some of the new blocks in Warrwood. When the area was subdivided up, it was between 480 to about 560. Yep. Some blocks are 600 square metres.
Yeah.
Obviously there's difficulty. The way we developed the Northern Beaches is we went out and cut up all the flat bits of land first, subdivided them, and then we went up to more the hilly parts up in Newport and Avalon, and we've reaped the repercussions from then on. The people in Avalon are always... Well, they're Avalon people, aren't they? So we know 450. On that 450 square metres, what would be the size of the granny flat, Steph?
So a two-bedroom granny flat is capped at 60 square metres. So that's the maximum size that you can have in regards to a hard coverage of the floor space or of the yard space. So 60 square metres, and that's more than sufficient. When you actually do go out and see these ones that have been built, they can do some pretty cool designs. And can really accommodate.
Well, 60 square metres will give you 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, combined lounge, dining. Most of the units, 2 bedrooms, we sell off the plan, would have an internal area of 60 square metres.
Spot on.
And what's really interesting about that is they're selling for $800,000. Granny flats, how much will they cost?
Look, to build, build costs have gone up a little bit, but they used to be between 100,000 to 150,000. They now say probably 120 to 160,000. But when you look at the rental returns, which I'll talk on about the yields a little bit later, at that price to what you can get back on them, they're absolutely phenomenal. The value for money and return on investment, far outweighs buying an apartment or something.
And do I have to fence everything off?
You don't need to. Look, it definitely helps with the rentability or the livability of a property. To give someone privacy and a little bit of space around it is highly recommended. I don't believe it's a law.
No, it's not. No. So if a family member is going to move in to the secondary accommodation, you might open it all up. If you are thinking, okay, well, friends of ours, he put one in the front yard of his house in a build up street and fenced it off. Other people might prefer to put it in the backyard and fence it off and have some sort of separation, but work out really well. Remembering that 60 square metre unit in DY, it's probably about $800,000 to buy, plus stamp duty. Plus your legal costs with your solicitor. You might be looking somewhere, cost of about $850, rent for $600. Now our granny flat, let's say all in we're 200,000.
Yeah.
What would we rent it for, Steph?
So rents right now, they're sitting at around, I had a quick chat with our property manager, Branka. She's just recently let one out, a 2-bedroom, 60 square metre floor plan for $750 a week. So
Wowza.
she said 700 to 750. You know, if you do a nice garden, you have some parking with it, you might be able to fringe up to $800 per week, $800 per week's of rent. But she said, look, not conservatively, but pretty accurately, 7 to 750.
And see, what we've found too, where these granny flats form a really nice part in the market is families or small families used to go rent a home. They'd pay about $700 for a home, $750. They have a little bit, they'd have a backyard, they'd be able to get outside with the kids. Today, those homes are $1,400 a week on the northern beaches. So, and now the new granny flats, often we find that the new dwelling is better than the existing dwelling.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
time.
brand new, architecturally designed, no dead space, lights an imperative there as well, and they're working out really well.
Yep.
Now, to build a granny flat, most project companies that you look at or companies that specialise in these, they're looking around 16 to 22 weeks, which isn't long, and also approval about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So we've had people in the office that have done it.
Yeah.
What company did they use, Steph, on the beaches?
I know Bungalow Homes is the new rebranded name. There's so many to choose from. A lot of them do great products out there. You don't need to use a builder. You can do it yourself if you're in the building game and you want to do that. But so many to go through. But the most recent I think I've seen is Bungalow Homes. They had one up in Cromer with a great water feature out the front. Everything opened up. It was a really, really special kind of home.
And these companies that specialise in building these types of accommodation, one-stop shop, go in there, look at the plans, they get council approval.
Yep.
I'll talk to you a bit about that.
Yep.
Those that don't know, Stev's done a lot of subdivision work with Mark. They even named a street after him. It was called Heavy Hitters.
Oh.
That's
called the M5.
The M5. What did they name the street?
I can't remember, Glenn.
Was it Boogaloo Street? Was it in Warriewood, which was a subdivision of 32 blocks named after Stev? The developer had to put a name to it. Thanks, Stev, so much for helping him and the people move in. They named the street after him. So
let's talk about what I was going to say, the regulations. Do you want to talk about the planning and how all that goes?
Talk about planning, talk about council. Do I need to go to council?
No, you don't. So when you're looking to do a secondary dwelling or a granny flat, there's two options. And one is you can get your approval via council through a DA, which is the normal kind of building method that we use. However, because the rules around it are so structured, this went out to state planning and state government, and they said you can actually build this under what's called a CDC, a complying development code.
Right.
And basically what that means is you can go ahead, as long as you follow the rules. Once you've completed, you get a private certifier. He just ticks off to say you've done everything right and your granny flat's approved. Usually a bit of a quicker method, and the reason they've done it that way is they didn't want councils being, backlogged or having this huge surplus of extra work. They said, let's make it easy for people to do and let's free up council's time as well. Okay,
so the big question often is value or devalue my existing home if I build a granny flat.
Absolutely. Look, I think it depends on what you want to achieve. I can only believe that it's going to add value when you look at what the build cost is and what the rental returns are and the income that's coming in, and you look at interest rates today and where they are in the property market. I know a lot of people wouldn't mind having another $700 coming in. And even if once you factor out maybe paying off that granny flat, the secondary dwelling granny flat, you're probably making $500 clear on it anyway after you're paying your interest on that. So I think it's a winner.
Well, what I've always found when we've sold homes with modern granny flats, not a garage that's been converted into somewhere where someone can sleep, but a purpose-built, professionally built granny flat, highly sought after.
Yep.
One, can offset some of the mortgage payments. Two, people aren't really using their backyard like they did when I was a kid. Now your kids have all activities. You don't play cricket in the backyard, from sun up to sundown. You go to cricket camp or you go to cricket lessons.
Yeah, that's true.
The backyard swimming pool, a lot of people see that as a burden. So this big space you have in the backyard or front yard, can be used to generate income.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, we have multi-generations living together on the Northern Beaches and throughout Australia with the cost of living going up. So, mum and dad and the kids can all live together and there's all a spot for them.
Yeah.
So anything granny flat, anything subdivision, anything building, always talk to Stavaran. They named a street after him. It's so good.
It's not a granny flat street. It's just houses, mate.
They named a street after me, but they couldn't go through because it was a bit rude.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the setbacks, guys. So
that was a big setback for me when they named the street. Didn't go through.
Sorry, there's always next time.
Next time.
But look, essentially, what they're looking for is if you want to build a granny flat and you think you've got a block that will accommodate it, you need a 3-metre setback from the rear boundary. So that's the house or the property that will be positioned behind you. You're moving back 3 metres. Your side setbacks are a minimum of 900 or 0.9 of a metre, so just under a metre from your side boundaries if you're moving to one side or the other. So generally people place them at the back of the blocks. You'll have a walkway down the side of the house. Some people, like your friend Glenn did, he did a great one here in DY, had it at the front of the house with a big front yard, and that worked really well. Where I've seen them really benefit, however, is if you can provide not necessarily parking, because they are usually in residential suburban streets where parking is not, total chaos, is where people have added gardens to them. So if you have a bit of garden space or a bit of yard space,
and sort of give both yourself and if you're going to tenant it out, privacy, parking, make it really easy, separate meters.
Yeah.
So there's
that's right.
Make it really easy like that when you're leasing it out. But if you just do the maths, 200,000 to get 700, 800,000 if you buy an apartment in DY, 850 with stamp to get 600.
Well, here's a few quick numbers on it. The build costs, I've worked up 100 to 150,000. Your rental returns, say they're sitting at $700 to $750 a week. That puts a secondary dwelling granny flats rental yield at just over 4%.
Wow.
So you're looking at 4%. And some people might say, I want a 5% return. That's great. But let's look at what traditional Sydney real estate's doing at the moment. A house at the moment in Sydney, across the entire kind of Sydney market, you're looking at a 2.5% rental return. This is 4% for a secondary dwelling. And an apartment, 3.4% return. So if it's investment that you're looking for such a small, well, not for such a small outlay, but for a smaller outlay, the returns are outweighing, like Glenn said, jumping to an apartment.
Well, I think you're looking probably better when you look at, you get 35,000 in rent and it costs you 200,000 to build.
Yeah.
That it's just great. So we would see granny flats a winner.
Yeah. Pitched roofs are also, I'm going off the tangent now, things I've seen that look really cool. Pitched roofs, they just give a little bit more height to the property and different dimensions. So many things you can do, and it's not just a converted garden shed. It's a real small. It's a home. And
it's also too, somewhere where the kids can come up and save their deposit. The days of, you go get a job, your wife gets a job, you rent somewhere, save a deposit and buy something. It's hard.
Yeah.
Rents now for the average person is 50% of the family income.
Yeah.
Then you've got to eat, you've got to, run your car, you've got to buy household appliances, pay school fees, clothe yourself, feed yourself, and try to save a deposit.
Yeah.
So having that safety net where the kids can come back home, save some money if you're sort of my age, it's a really, really good plan.
Yeah, I like it. Guys, as always, if you want to learn more about it, we're not the granny flat experts. We don't build them. We do lease them out. We can give you a whole heap of information on that. Glenn and I do not take any kind of payments from any granny flat companies, so we're not out here spruiking anybody over anyone else, but we see them as good real estate options. Glenn, is there any truth to the rumour it's going to change from granny flat to Glen flats or Glenny flats? What do you reckon?
Oh, look, I'm all for that. I'm like anything where money comes in the brown
Maybe-
paper bag. I love it.
I was going to say maybe if you don't get a street named after you, you could get like a granny flat.
Yeah. Look, I never have to worry if I'm getting too old. I'm told that every day when I come to Novak.
Guys, thanks for joining us on a Monday night. As always, any other property questions, anything we can help you with here at Novak Properties, give us a buzz, 897868888.
Thank you very
Still
much.
the number. All
Good
right,
evening.
guys. Have a nice night. Bye. You set, Glad?
Done. We off?
No.